The dictionary tells us that grief is something, a feeling of great sadness, especially when somebody dies. But I don't think that that's exactly what it is. Here I have a few characters shown on the screen, and each, I feel, represents completely different ways to go through grief. So first we have Edward Elric, who his grief turns into a sort of like obsession where he dedicates his life to fixing what happened and convinced that if he works hard enough, he can undo the impossible. We then have Kratos, where he buries everything. He convinces himself that emotion is a weakness and he carries unimaginable guilt and spends years trying to outrun a past that refused to stay behind him. We then have Kusei Arima, and for him, his grief doesn't make him angry or obsessed like the previous two. It makes him incredibly sad and it paralyzes him. It's something that he once loved, the piano. Well, I'm saying loved quite loosely. I'm sure there was a point where he did love it, but it was something that once defined his entire life, became something that he's not even able to hear. And then after the anime, the next stage of grief that he goes through, he kind of reverts, he cancels out what he used to be like, and he was able to move past it and carried on doing the one thing he loved and felt he had been born to do. Finally, we have Thorfinn, who kind of goes in a completely different direction to the other three, apart from maybe Kratos, where Thorfinn's grief turns into absolute rage and hatred to the person that took his father from him. He doesn't he doesn't allow the grief to make him sad. Instead, he lets it consume him so completely for that revenge, and it becomes the only thing that he believes is worth living for. And once the purpose of his life ends, when obviously what happens, don't want to spoil anything, he then changes his sort of path and desires and becomes a new, different man. Right, now you're going to be seeing some absolutely awful gameplay by me on Black Ops 2, so please don't judge me. But from what I previously have just said, those four people have had four completely different reactions. None of their reactions are wrong, and that's sort of what makes you, or me personally, realise something, that maybe grief isn't just this overwhelming sadness, and it's not just like one language. Maybe grief speaks to different people differently. Because when I first experienced grief through the loss of my dad, I noticed that I wasn't like any one of those characters. Maybe sometimes I was like Edward, sometimes I was like Kratos, sometimes I understood how Thorfinn would feel, and sometimes I felt like Kusei. And but most of the time I was trying to figure out what exactly it was that I was feeling. So throughout the rest of this video, I kind of want to talk about how I learned to deal with it and how I learned to deal with losing someone that I deeply loved. People often ask whether grief gets easier, but I never really know how to exactly answer that because easier isn't exactly the word that I would personally use with it. I think different is the word that I would use. In the beginning, obviously, it feels like the entire world has stopped, and for many people, it sort of has. Everyone else's life keeps moving on. People are still going to work, they still laugh, they still go out, they still complain about small little inconveniences that you're thinking, wow, why are you complaining about that? I've done so and so. But but meanwhile, your own world is like just been split into two completely different timelines. Life before, and then obviously life after. And I think the issue that a lot of people have is that they stop living. It's almost like they think, oh, it's over, and that's how I felt a lot of the time. I just felt there's no point doing anything. And that, I think, is the issue and the main stem of the other emotions that come from grief. for me, one of the hardest parts of losing him wasn't exactly the sadness of the death, but it was more the regrets of the things that I could have done when I had the opportunity to. And I think for a lot of people, they might also relate to that. And I think the main things that I often remembered were remembering everything that I didn't do and not the things I did do. So maybe I'd remember more the conversation I thought could wait, moments I took for granted, times I said maybe later. And you never think that like ordinary moments like that will become memories until they're all that you have left. And that regret taught me something that I'll probably carry for the rest of my life, and that's don't take life for granted. Do everything you can whenever you can, and not because it's necessarily the worst thing is going to happen to them, but because one day completely ordinary moments like watching TV with somebody or going on a walk will just be moments sorry, not moments, memories. Now, I sort of want to go over why everyone grieves differently. I think it's not obviously I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a genius of this, but through my past experiences and my own current experiences, I feel like it's kind of important if we look back to the characters that I mentioned earlier. So, Edward, he tried to fix the impossible. Kratos tried to hide from it. Thorfinn tried to fight it, and Kusei tried to avoid it. And I think real people in the real world do the exact same thing, which is why these characters I feel are so well written. And some people may throw themselves into relationships, romantic, friendly, or however. They might get into the gym, start working out a load, start playing video games. They might become quieter, louder, cry every day, never cry, get angry all the time, and all of these are valid emotions that people can feel. But also, none of these reactions automatically tell you how much someone loved the person they lost. It's not measured in tears, it's measured more in the space that that person occupied in your life. And one thing that I think I believe now about grief, and if I could describe it in one sentence, I'd say that grief is love trying to find somewhere to go. When someone is alive, all that love has somewhere to land. You can hug them, talk to them, call them, make memories of them, do whatever. But once they're gone, the love stays and it's got nowhere obvious to go. You can't hug them, walk with them, talk to them. And I think that's why it hurts the most because this feeling you have has nowhere to go. Why sometimes anniversaries of their birthdays, sometimes smells can really catch you off guard because you think, oh, I remember the feeling of when I smelt that or when I celebrated this. And it shows that love is still there, but the person isn't. Now, this video is relatively short because I feel like this is a topic that you can either go into very deeply or go over lightly. And I want to go over it more lightly because I'm not making this video as I feel like I've figured it out and I'm like a genius psychologist that has mastered the study of the brain. I really haven't. I have days where it catches me off guard by surprise, and I still wonder what conversations I'll never get to have, what life would have been if things had gone differently. But I don't think that grief is exactly something we're meant to be. I think it's something that we learn to carry and learn to live with. And if you've lost someone, I hope you know there isn't a correct way to grieve. You grieve in your own way. You don't have to cry every day. You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to fit anyone else's timeline. You don't have to do anything if you really don't want to. And if people are telling you, oh, you shouldn't feel that way, you should know how you should feel. Maybe not in the sense that, oh, I know exactly how I'll feel. It's more the sense that you should know that the way you're feeling isn't wrong. And I think that sometimes that when you are feeling extra down because of grief or extra angry or whatever emotion you normally feel with it, I feel like often you should maybe reflect on the memories that you have that are good, not the memories you have that are bad. Like tell the people that you love them, spend an extra hour with them, watch a film, take a photo, answer the phone, reply to their message. Don't take it for granted, because one day those ordinary moments might not be as ordinary anymore. I really appreciate you guys listening if you've made it this far. Please excuse my awful gameplay in the background. I am not very good at Call of Duty. But if this video has helped you see grief in a different way, or reminded you of someone you love, I'd really like to hear your thoughts or your stories in the comments. Or if you want to contact me via my email, I will put it in the description of this video. So yeah, take care of yourselves, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one.